Hey everyone, and welcome. So today, we're going to dive into something that literally holds the entire internet together. I mean, it's something you use probably hundreds of times a day without even thinking about it. We're talking about the humble but incredibly powerful hyperlink.
Okay, so let's just start with a really big question, right? When we say World Wide Web, what actually makes it a web? Because, it's not just a bunch of random files floating around out there in cyberspace.
Well, the answer is actually this really simple but totally revolutionary idea that anything can connect to anything else. That interconnectedness, that's the very fabric of the internet. It's the whole magic trick. And hey, that is not just me saying that. From the very beginning, people have called hyperlinks one of the most exciting innovations the web has to offer. And it makes sense, right? I mean, think about it. A link is what turns a boring, flat, static page into this dynamic, explorable universe you can just get lost in for hours. So, if these links are basically the threads holding this whole web together, what exactly is a link? Let's break it down and start with a super simple definition. Okay, at its absolute core, a link is just a connection. You can think of it like a digital doorway, right? The source anchor is the door you see on the page you're on, and the target anchor, well, that's the place you end up on the other side. And that destination could be another web page, an image, a video, pretty much anything on the web.
And you totally know this already, even if you don't think about it. We have all seen that universal signal, right? You move your mouse over some text and boom, the pointer changes into that little hand. That's literally the web's way of saying, hey, you can click here. There's something else to see.
So, how do we actually make one of these things? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the simple little bit of HTML code that makes this whole thing work.
It all starts with something called the anchor tag. It's literally just the letter A inside angle brackets, and its only job is to be a container. It's like a sign for the web browser that says, hey, pay attention, whatever I'm wrapped around, that's going to be a clickable link.
But an anchor tag all by itself is kinda useless. It doesn't know where to go. It needs a destination. And that's where the href attribute comes in. Href stands for Hypertext Reference, and it holds the single most important piece of info, the URL. This is the part that tells the browser exactly where you want to go when you click.
So, when you put it all together, it looks like this. You've got your opening A tag with the href attribute pointing to a URL. Then, right in the middle, you have the link text. That's the actual words you see and click on. And then you just close it all off with a closing A tag. That's it. So simple, but man, is it powerful.
Okay, theory's over. Now that we know all the little pieces, let's put them together and look at a complete real-world example of what this code actually looks like on a web page. So here's a little snippet of code. See how that anchor tag is wrapped around the phrase, "Welcome to Tech Almira"? And if you look inside that opening A tag, you can see the href attribute pointing straight to the full web address for techalmira.com.
And this is what you get. The browser takes that line of code and turns it into this. It's just the text, but now it's a clickable hyperlink. And when someone clicks on it, the browser knows exactly where to go because of that href we set up.
Now, I'm sure you've noticed this a million times. Links change color, and there's a really good reason for it. By default, a link you've never clicked is blue. But after you've visited it, it turns purple. It's like a little breadcrumb trail, a visual cue telling you, hey, you've already been down this path. And that super quick red flash when you click, that's just instant feedback. It's all part of this universal language that makes the web way easier to navigate. But what about controlling where the link opens? Same tab versus a new tab. Well, that's where the target attribute comes in handy. The default is it just opens in the same window you're in. But I know you've clicked on links that pop open a brand new tab. That's done by setting the target to _blank. It's a super common trick, especially when you're linking to another website and you don't want people to lose their spot on your page. Okay, so that address you stick inside the href, it's not always a full, long web address. There are actually two main types of URLs you can use, and it's really helpful to know the difference between them. Honestly, the difference is super simple. An absolute URL is the whole shebang. The full address, https/www and everything. You use that when you're linking to a totally different website. A relative URL, though, that's more like giving directions to another room in the same house. It's just a shortcut you use to link to other pages or files that are on your own website.
Of course, hyperlinks aren't just for text. You can turn almost anything on a web page into a clickable link. So let's talk about one of the most common examples, making an image a link.
And the logic for this is just beautifully simple. All you do is take your image tag and wrap an anchor tag around it. That's it. The anchor tag gives it the destination, and the image itself becomes the thing you click on.
The key idea here is called nesting. As you can see in this code snippet, the entire image tag, the whole bit of code that makes the picture show up, is just plopped right inside the opening and closing anchor tags. The anchor tag just becomes this wrapper that gives the image the superpower of being a link.
Here's another really cool and useful trick, using mail to inside the href. Instead of pointing to a web page, this little command tells the browser to do something different. It opens up the user's default email app, like Outlook or Apple Mail, and automatically starts a new message to whatever email address you put in there. It's a super fast way to make a Contact Us link.
All right, let's zoom out from the code for a second and think more about strategy. Because look, knowing how to make a link is great, but knowing why you're linking and where you're linking, that's just as important, if not more.
So let's talk about internal links. These are the links that just connect pages on your own website. They are so crucial for your strategy. I mean, yeah, they help people find their way around, but they're also absolutely essential for SEO. When you link between your own pages, you're basically drawing a map for search engines like Google. You're showing them how all your content is connected and which pages are the most important. This builds a really strong site structure that search engines love.
Then you have external links, the ones that point to totally different websites. These are all about building trust and authority. Think about it. When you link out to a really high-quality, reputable source, you're basically vouching for them. And that does two amazing things. First, it gives your readers extra valuable resources. And second, it sends a huge signal to both people and search engines that your content is well-researched and credible. And that, in turn, boosts your own site's authority.
So it really all comes back to this, doesn't it? A simple anchor tag, one single line of code, is the fundamental tool that weaves our entire digital world together. It's what connects ideas, people, and entire libraries of knowledge across the globe. So the only question left is, what will you connect next?